Alright, let's dive into something that's been on my mind lately, the Beatles Revolver. This album is a masterpiece, no doubt, but what's really fascinating is how much we still uncover about it decades later. It's like this album has layers upon layers of secrets, and every time you peel one back, there's something new to marvel at. So let's talk about some lesser-known facts, but more importantly, let's explore what they mean and why they matter. First off, did you know the Beatles originally wanted to record Revolver at Stax Studios in Memphis? Personally, I think this is huge. Stax was the epicenter of soul music at the time, with legends like Otis Redding and Booker T, and the MGs cutting tracks there. The Beatles were massive fans of that sound, and the idea of them blending their British invasion style with that raw, Southern soul vibe. Mind-blowing. But here's the kicker, it fell through. George Harrison wrote in a letter that financial concerns, and the chaos of dealing with the Beatles' name killed the deal. What this really suggests is how much external pressures can shape art. Imagine if they'd recorded in Memphis, would Revolver have sounded completely different? It's a what if that keeps me up at night. Instead, they stayed at EMI Studios, later Abbey Road, and Paul McCartney said it was like coming home. From my perspective, this highlights something bigger, the importance of comfort in creativity. When you're in a familiar space, you can focus on the art itself, not the logistics. That's why Revolver feels so cohesive, they weren't distracted by new surroundings. But it also makes me wonder, do artists need to step out of their comfort zones to truly innovate? Or is there genius in staying put? Now, let's talk about the back cover photo. It's Robert Whittaker, the same guy who shot the infamous Butcher cover for Yesterday and Today. What many people don't realize is how much Whittaker's work captures the Beatles' duality. They could be playful and experimental, but also dark and provocative. That black and white shot of them in glasses. It's deceptively simple. In my opinion, it's a statement about identity. They're hiding behind these glasses, almost like they're saying, who are we really? It's a subtle but powerful commentary on fame and persona. Here's a detail I find fascinating. The guitar solo in Taxman isn't George Harrison's, it's Paul McCartney's. This flips the script on the whole roles in the band thing. The Beatles weren't about ego, they were about what served the song. What this really suggests is their collaborative genius. They didn't care who got the spotlight, they cared about the music. And that Indian bit McCartney added. It's a nod to Harrison's influence, showing how deeply they inspired each other. It's not just a solo, it's a conversation. Speaking of influence, let's talk about Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. Rubber Soul inspired Pet Sounds, which then inspired Revolver. It's this incredible creative feedback loop. Personally, I think this is one of the most underrated aspects of music history. It's not just about competition, it's about artists pushing each other to new heights. McCartney heard God Only Knows and wrote Here, There and Everywhere. If you take a step back and think about it, this is how art evolves, through this constant exchange of ideas. Now Peter Fonda's contribution to She Said is wild. Lennon was on an acid trip, and Fonda kept saying, I know what it's like to be dead. Lennon thought it was boring, but it stuck with him. What makes this really interesting is how it ties into the 60s counterculture. People were exploring the boundaries of consciousness, and the Beatles were right there at the forefront. This raises a deeper question: how much of their music was shaped by these experiences? Was it just experimentation, or were they trying to capture something bigger about the human condition? And let's not forget Donovan's contribution to Yellow Submarine. He added that sky of blue, sea of green line. It's such a small detail, but it's perfect. In my opinion, this shows how collaborative the 60s music scene was. Everyone was sharing ideas, and the Beatles weren't afraid to ask for help. It's a reminder that even the greatest artists don't work in a vacuum. The French horn solo in For No One. Alan Civil, one of only 5 session musicians credited on a Beatles track. What this really suggests is how much they valued precision. They didn't just want anyone, they wanted the best. And the fact that Civil came back for Sgt. Pepper. That's loyalty and respect in action. Lastly, the alternative titles for Revolver are hilarious. Abracadabra. Bubble and Squeak. It's like they were brainstorming in a comedy sketch. But it also shows their playfulness. They weren't taking themselves too seriously, even as they were creating something groundbreaking. Personally, I think Pendulum would have been a great title. It captures the album's balance between experimentation and tradition. So here's my closing thought. Revolver isn't just an album, it's a snapshot of a moment in time. It's about innovation, collaboration, and the messy, beautiful process of creating art. What many people don't realize is how much of its magic lies in the stories behind it. So the next time you listen, think about Stax Studios, Peter Fonda's weird comment, and that French horn solo. It'll make the experience even richer. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take.